Good morning, fellow ruminators. Welcome back to another session, Rumination with Andrew. Thank you so much for joining as we are about to discuss a very important topical matter. Now, this morning, we are going to be looking briefly at Caricom's, Jamaica's response or attitude, if you will, to what is happening in Palestine. And we have been watching what is happening in the United States with regard to the students' protest at Columbia University, among other North American universities, along with international universities such as in France and Germany and other parts of the world. Now, need I say that this is a very horrific and a very, very sad situation. And the way in which Washington is responding with an iron fist, with strong arms, right, to what the students are doing is something that we need to pay attention to because we're living in a different world, right? We are living in a new era, as it were. And that started from 2020. If you were paying attention, if you had just paid attention to what was happening in 2020, but because you were so distracted by what they were doing, that you were not willing to look at the playbook and look at the narratives that were driven during 2020 and beyond. And this is not just about Palestine, or when you read about Haiti, it's not just about Haiti. And that is something interesting. Some weeks ago, we had Haiti was in the fire, right? And they were thinking that Haiti was about to be destroyed as a country. And the news media, they had their stories were centered around Haiti. Now, the news media narratives are centered around Palestine and what is happening in Israel. So, what's going on in this world? So, I think that we have short attention spans and they realize that and they can move us and push us but that is not the agenda. The agenda is bigger. What is happening in Palestine, as horrific as it is, what is happening in Haiti, as horrific and horrendous as it is, that is not the real agenda. There is a broader, a bigger agenda. And something bigger is on the horizon that you and I are not privy to. And we must educate ourselves and we must pray because we understand that there is greater wisdom above. And that true wisdom only comes from God, comes from above and not beneath. What is interesting is that Caricom sent out a message some time ago on February 29th, I believe. Let me pull up my information about the situation in Palestine. And this is coming from the Relief Web, right? And it says the Caribbean community remains deeply distressed by the ongoing violence and deteriorating situation in Gaza, which has resulted in the tragic loss of civilian lives, including the deaths of women and children on an unprecedented scale and widespread displacement and suffering. Caricom reiterates its strong condemnation of the attacks by Hamas and the taking of hostages on October 7th, 2023, as well as of the Israeli actions that violate international humanitarian law and the human rights of the Palestinian people. The incessant Israeli bombardment of Gaza has led to catastrophic loss of civilian lives, the destruction of critical infrastructure, and the deprivation of basic necessities, food, water, and medical care. In this regard, CARICOM urges an immediate and unconditional ceasefire in Gaza and safe and unimpeded access for the delivery of adequate and sustained humanitarian assistance. We also strongly advocate for the rule of law to prevail and for the return to their families of all hostages and persons held in administrative detention without charge. That was very good, that they're calling for a ceasefire. Now, we need to understand that the United States has a broader agenda in the Middle East and around the world. We talked about Eurasia And the fact that the United States is on a quest for full spectrum dominance, and that the United States wants to control the entire Middle East, and that's why it is creating bases, or is Israel is being used as a proxy so that they would be able to continue with their war on the Middle East. Remember now that Iraq has already been captured, among other countries in the Middle East, and Iran is next. Whether we like it or not, the United States is going to enter into a war with Iran. So what you're seeing in Israel, there is a provocation of war, as it were, in Iran. So it's not about Israel as we think it is, or Palestine. And we have to sympathize with our Palestinian friends. They're just in the wrong era. It's almost like that the United States, let us say that the United States should have a war with Haiti tomorrow, and there's going to be, bombings and whatever it is. If we hope that it does not get to that level, then perhaps Jamaica and Dominican Republic could suffer collateral damages, right? That is how war operates, right? We need to understand that there's a broader picture, and this is not just about, some tensions between Israel and Iran, or some tensions between Israel and the Palestinians. Oftentimes, these are manufactured tensions that result in war, and that the United States has a greater agenda more than the tensions that it is highlighting, that it is revealing to you. And it's for us to understand that. The students are protesting, and they are asking for the divestment of funds that, have been going to, that's the Israeli funds going to universities, going to top universities like Harvard and Princeton's and the Columbia University in the United States. But it is more than this, and we must understand that Israel does not control America. America controls Israel. However, the United States has to use Israel as a cover, because the US has a constitution which it has not yet renounced, all right, or eradicated, eliminated. It is still pretending as if it is a constitutionally based country, but it is not, right? We know that the United States is heavily militarized, and it is an empire, right? It's an imperium. So what it does, it uses Israel, which is not a constitutional republic as the United States is, to carry out its own agenda. So it's hiding behind Israel while Israel is behaving in a fascistic manner, right? And is practicing what is known as fascism. The United States has said that it's against these sort of ideologies. However, it does so through its actions. We cannot look at what people say, we have to look at their actions. And the United States over the years have been acting in that manner, that people like Mussolini and other nations have been accused of doing, right? So we need to pay attention to that. If the war should stop tomorrow in Palestine, it's not going to solve our problem, because that's not the root cause of the war as we see now in Israel, where they're talking about land. So this two-state solution to the problem is not going to increase peace in the world, right? Let us say, for example, you have the Dominican Republic and Haiti being two states, right? It is very clear that these two islands are two distinct countries, right? However, the situation between them, there's still war in terms, when I say war, it's not the same as in Palestine, but we see that there is there are tensions between these two states because of what the United States is doing in Haiti, and creates this sort of vacuum, and this dysfunctional state in Haiti that allows a lot of Haitians to flee their country, and they end up in the Dominican Republic, and that creates a lot of tension. So the United States is using Israel as a base, as a military base, right? Arming Israel to the teeth for its future wars with other nations in the Middle East and Eurasia. All right, it's very important that we understand that this is not just about a fight between the Israelis and the Palestinians. It has deeper roots, and we must study the deeper roots. I did suggest a book for you to read, The Full Spectrum Dominance, because that is important. I'm not sure if the algorithms here are, are listening to that book, the title, and it's, I don't know, it sends up a red flag on the algorithms. I am not sure because it's a very, very strange platform that I am using. You don't know what's going on with this platform. But so much to say that we have to look at the bigger picture than just look at what is happening, a war between Israel and the Palestinians, because things are happening behind the scenes, right? Numerous things are happening behind the scenes, and we've got to really wake up to those facts. Now, Jamaica has recognized, I think it was yesterday, Israel as a state, right? And is, vouching for a two-state solution. I had pulled it up here. Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, so they were commended by, the Gleaner has on the website here that the country was commended. I'm not seeing it now, for its, its principled stance on Palestine and supporting Palestine to becoming an independent nation. I am not, yes, Jamaica lauded for recognition, um, for recognizing Palestinian state. The government of Jamaica is being commended for its decision to officially recognize Palestine as a state, even as concerns rise about how this move may impact the island's relationship with Israel. And that is what people are suggesting now, because Andrew Holness and even Barbados, Mia Mottley's prime minister in Barbados, they do have diplomatic ties with Israel, right? The Byron Blake, former Jamaican deputy to permanent representative of the United Nations, lauded the Andrew Holness-led government for recognizing its responsibility to the international community, but believes that this action will have implications for the cooperative relationships or relations that Jamaica has enjoyed with Israel since its 1960s. Israel has called in the ambassadors of relatively large and important countries that have voted against Israel in the UN in recent times. So I can see Israel saying to Jamaica, why do you want to do that? Because that is what happens when you enter into diplomatic relations with these countries. But we have to, there are different countries, and I think that having diplomatic relations does not mean that you are going to agree with everything that a nation does. And this is what the world we're living in now is suggesting, that if you enter into diplomatic relations, it means that you have to agree with everything that a nation or a nation state does or does not do. Something that I do not agree with. I think Jamaica has the right, or Caricom, any member of the Caricom countries, or any country of the world, right, can enter into diplomatic relations, and they should not be held accountable, or should not be held, they should not be obligated or obliged to doing the deeds, especially if they're unprincipled and immoral, of any state to which they have formed any diplomatic ties, or with which they have some form of diplomatic relations. In a media release on Tuesday, Jamaica's Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Senator Camilla Johnson-Smith, stated that the island's decision to recognize Palestine as a state was based on its concerns regarding the war in Gaza and the ever-deepening humanitarian crisis there. Now, I don't think that should have led them. I think that it should have been a principled act from the beginning, because we do know, this has been going on for years now, that Israel and Palestine have always been at loggerheads, right? So it should not have gotten to this situation in which there are, the loss of many lives, but or there's a loss of many lives. I think that we should have recognized Palestine as an independent state from, at least we should have done that long time ago. Now, the statement, let me see here what he's saying. Prime Minister Holness directed the gleaner to the statement by Johnson Smith when asked if the government was concerned about the possible implications of this action on its relationship with Israel. Further clarification was sought from Johnson Smith. However, messages and calls went unanswered up to press time. Jamaica is now one of 140 member states of the United Nations, including 11 Caribbean community nations that have recognized the state of Palestine. On Sunday, Barbados announced its recognition of Palestine as a state with its Foreign Affairs Minister, Kerry Simons, emphasizing that this acknowledgement did not affect its exceptionally good relationship with Israel. So, um, however, regardless of whether there are consequences to this move by Jamaica, Blake is adamant that the government did the right thing. All right, so that's good that they know that this is the best way forward. We have to act, we have to do something, even though it might be hypocritical, because that is what, diplomacy is all about. It's just hypocrisy upon hypocrisy upon hypocrisy. We have here in Jerusalem Post that Jamaica follows Barbados in recognizing Palestine as a state. So the country's foreign minister, Kamina Johnson-Smith, said that Jamaica continues to advocate for a two-state solution as the only viable option to resolve the long-standing conflict. Yes, but I don't think the two-state solution is going to solve the problem. Because if the United States military is not upended, which it seems that it's not, based on biblical prophecy, it's not going to be upended, right? It's going to continue. And remember now that no empire actually gives up its imperium, right? It always continues until it dies, and it dies in a bloody manner, both on the soil, both on the continent, and also abroad. So we have to understand that that is what is going to happen. And we see already the United States turning its what vitriol on its own citizens. And yesterday we saw where the National Guard is being contemplated to be sent to these institutions where they have these protest actions. Based on my understanding, the protest actions for the most part are peaceful, but Washington seems to be denying that. They seem to be saying that the protests are not peaceful in any sense of the of the word. So I do not know who is giving the correct narrative. Remember now that everything is narrative driven, and a lot of what you're seeing on the TV, what you're seeing on YouTube or whatever is also narrative driven. And we've got to be careful of what we think is the correct information, and and then we process it and say that this is the ideology that we need to be attached to. However, that being said, I think that the Senator Johnson, that is the new Speaker of the House, Republican Speaker of the House, is very clear that the students who are protesting are supporting Hamas, right? He's suggesting that they are supporting Hamas, which is interesting. How can he conflate the two? I don't know how he was able to do that. Now, I'm not sure the students are actually supporting Hamas. What they're saying that they want an end to the war and that they need a ceasefire. So how does he conflate? How does he really connect their supporting of Hamas? Because nobody here supports Hamas. We should not. We should definitely condemn the actions of Hamas. The question is, who is behind Hamas? That is a critical question we need to ask. But we are not so much concerned about that as to, well, yes, we should be concerned, but we should condemn the actions of Hamas. Now, let's look at what the Jerusalem Post continues to say about Jamaica's recognition of Palestine as a state. Now, Jamaica followed its Caribbean neighbor Barbados in unilaterally recognizing the state of Palestine over the last week, giving the Palestinian Authority 2 diplomatic victories as it pushes for Western countries to take such a step. Jamaica continues to advocate for a two-state solution as the only viable option to resolve the long-standing conflict, guarantee the security of Israel, and uphold the dignity and rights of Palestinians, Jamaican Foreign Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith said on Tuesday in a statement her office issued. The decision is aligned with Jamaica's strong commitment to the principles of the UN Charter, which seeks to engender mutual respect and peaceful coexistence among states, as well as the recognition of the rights of people of self-determination. So that is important. Now, one of the things that is quite interesting, and talk about hypocrisy in the field of foreign affairs, when you look at what is happening in Haiti, doesn't Haiti have that right also for self-determination? And Jamaica and the Caricom countries have not recognized that. Instead, they are uniting with the US to undermine Haitian independence and Haitian self-determination. And this is the hypocrisy that we need to call out. And the journalists should be calling out that hypocrisy. Another thing that is very interesting is that the students in the United States, because of their lack of understanding of international affairs, don't realize that they have, Palestine on their hands right here in the Caribbean, right at their backyard, right? They don't understand that. And that the United States seeks to suppress the liberties of Haiti and have been doing that for a very long time, perhaps before even the conflict between Israel and Palestine. Because if we look at if we go back to the military occupation of the US, of Haiti in 1915, remember now that the state of Israel was founded in 1948, thereabout, right? So it means therefore that Haiti has been going through this sort of subversion, these subversive actions of the United States to suppress their state and also to restrict their liberties. And we have not seen the level of effort displayed by the students in North America and their solidarity with Haiti, right? They're just, displaying their solidarity for and with Palestine, something that is interesting and something that should really captivate your attention, because that is what it's all about, hypocrisy. We're not seeing also the professors there, those who should understand history at Columbia University and the Yale Universities and the Harvard and understand what's going on in Haiti. We have not seen them come out and given any major statements, and they have certainly not protested against against the injustices happening in that Caribbean country that is so much closer to them, right? And in which the United States has been, military, or has used its military to restrict the rights and liberties of Haitian people. We're not seeing that. They're not saying anything much about that. And we're wondering what is in the brain of these people. But, what is triggering this fascination with, or obsession, I should say, with Palestine? Is it sincere? And I'm sure for some it might be sincere, but is it just, as I'm saying, another manifestation of, ideology, of demonstrating what side of the political spectrum, what side of the political aisle you are on, right? You are connected with. Something that we need to think about. Something that we need to think about, because there are so many hypocrisies that need to be called out. So many hypocrisies need to be called out, because certainly what is happening in Haiti is going to have devastating effects on America, on America's security, national security, and otherwise. Talk about national security. The Senator Johnson and all the members of Congress, when they were delivering their speech, I think it was at Columbia University yesterday, itemized the fact, all right, raised the point that, whatever is being done in terms of the United States suppressing the students' right to, to protest, and also, to, yeah, to express or to articulate their points of view regarding Palestine. Because no matter what we want to say, whether you agree with them or not, they have the right to protest. Once they're not killing anyone, they're not maiming, they have the right to peacefully protest against the injustices of the government, right? In fact, the Constitution does allow them to even, to allow them to take out the government, right? Yeah, the citizens, if they see that the injustices of any government, any sitting government, the citizens of the United States, according to the Constitution, have the right to depose them, right? To take them out of office because of whatever abuses that the citizenry might perceive, um, go against their constitutional rights. So I'm not sure what the senators and the members of Congress who were trying to, articulate yesterday in terms of national security, and one of the things also that concerned me is the fact that they are supporting this religious group, and it is their right to protect this religious group. Now, shouldn't there be a separation of church and state? Something that we need to think about. The United States is now supporting a religious group, because this is not now a political group only. This is also a religious group because they're being attacked because of the religion. But the irony is that many of the protesters, I understand, were also Jews, right? They were protesting against what the state of Israel is doing in Palestine, in the Gaza area. But the members of Congress would like to give us the impression that the protesters are largely people who are anti-Jews, who are anti-Semites. And we've got to be very careful of the use of the word anti. And we saw that word, there was an excessive use of the word in 2020. And you know what I'm talking about. Once you do not agree with the government, once you disagree with the narrative that the government is disseminating, you then become anti. And that is not so. Because I disagree with you, it doesn't mean that I'm anti you or anti. Well, I might be. I might be anti you depending on who you are, right? And the sort of activities in which you are engaged, right? But I'm not anti-human, right? I might be anti what you're doing. You might be participating in an immoral and unjust act. And I will say that that is not so, and I might be anti that particular activity or that action or that act. However, the students are not, for the most part, anti-Israel. They are suggesting and they are asking for a ceasefire. How can that be anti-Semite? Because a ceasefire is going to also protect Israel. Because when you are in a war, you're going to have collateral damage, right? Collateral damage on both sides. On both sides. And that's one of the reasons I have a problem with wars, right? Because sometimes when people say that, oh, who won the war? When you say who won the war, what do you mean? Because you have collateral damage. You have the loss of life of many people on both sides. I've never heard of a war in which nobody, whether the aggressor or the one who is trying to liberate, hasn't lost a person, right? Hasn't lost a warrior, hasn't lost a soldier, right? I mean, I have never heard of such war. So I can't say somebody has won a war, because it was always results in the loss of lives on both sides, on both sides, right? So if there's a ceasefire there in the Gaza Strip, It means, therefore, that it will be good for both people or peoples, right? Both the Palestinians and the Israelis. So what is the point? How can you be anti-Semite if you also are desirous of protecting the lives of Israelis and Palestinians? It can't be that you're anti-Semite. Why do we use these words? And why do we allow our politicians to use these words? Well, we allowed them to do so 4 years ago because we were in this sort of world. The left also in the United States is very hypocritical. So when people were calling out what was happening in the Ukraine, they seem not to, you know, what was happening in the Ukraine, don't you see that that would also have resulted in other problems, right? That the United States continued to expand its military undertakings around the world. Okay? So these wars that we support or we do not support, we should not support any war, as a matter of fact. But you have sometimes the political right support this war, the political left support this war, and then it just goes on and on and on. And it divides the American people, right? It divides the American people. For example, the political right, they were against the Ukraine war, but when you look at what is happening, it seems to me that they are pro the Israeli war, and they are also pro the impending war with China, and then you have people on the political left, they are, pro the war with Ukraine in the Ukraine, pro the war with Russia, right? And it's just very divisive right now in Washington. But I can guarantee you that just calling for a ceasefire, while it's a very, very noble cause, because we do not need to be witnessing the loss of so many lives, right? We need to have that loss, but it's just going to be a temporary ceasefire, right? The war will continue unabated because the United States is still on its quest for full spectrum dominance. If we are going to see the ease up of tensions in Israel, and I do not think there will ever be a two-state solution because the United States does not want it. We learned from the Intercept recently that the United States is not desirous of having a two-state solution. So that's not going to happen, because if the United States has Israel and Palestine, as two peaceful states, right? Then how is it going to achieve its wars in the Middle East? How is it going to occupy the nations that it wants to occupy? That is the question. It has to use Israel as a fodder. It has to use Israel as a proxy. Israel does not control the United States. The United States controls Israel, but it gives you that impression that AIPAC and these people control Congress, right? But the military-industrial complex is what controls these people, right? And we must understand that Israel is just an extension of or expansion, I should say, of the United States of America, United States military apparatus, right? And that is what we have to understand. So, Caricom, you might have done a noble deed, and I commend you for doing so, but you're also having blood on your hands when you supported U.S. mission in Haiti, right? I'm not sure what you're doing. You can't take one principled act there and another unprincipled act on the other in another country, right? You've got to be principled throughout. When you're dealing with enemies, when you're dealing with strong military apparatuses, as what you see in the United States, you've got to be principled in everything because the empire laughs at you, right? The empire is already laughing at you because the empire knows that you essentially support whatever it does, right? And certainly this is a big thing in the Caribbean with Haiti. And the Caricom members, the Caricom nations or nation states should have, sought for or should have ensured that the United States does not get its way with Haiti or does not have its way with Haiti, right? Instead, we have supported, and we continue to support, right, the Kenyan-led mission to Haiti. That is going to be catastrophic if it is ever sent. So that's what I wanted to present to you. Hope that you'll have a fantastic day. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you in another video. Have a great day. Bye.